Okay, so this is where the array class comes in, and I'll be showing several different. They're called static methods. I might look up that term. I'm not going to explain what it means right now, but this is we're going to use the static methods of the array class to do some common tasks you want to do when you're working with arrays. So this is just something built into the C# language to help you do things with arrays that you commonly do, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So one thing to do is to copy one array to another, and you would do this because maybe you want to start with the same data, the same values and elements, but you don't want to happen what we just saw happen, which is that when you change the quote unquote copy, you change the original. In other words, if you have two references to the same thing, it's just one thing. If you make any changes to it using either handle, you're changing the original. So what we want to do is create a separate, we want to do a clone basically. We want to have a clone that has a life of its own and can have its own values. It starts in the same place because it just copies the elements from the other, but then it goes off to have a life of its own. Now, I did the simplest version here. I just want you to understand that one first. Then you can read up in the book about all the variant ways of doing this. But if you just do it for anything in Visual C#, if you type the thing and then open the parentheses, you can see it gives you a little helper that gives you like all the possibilities you can do. And it's fairly readable. You'll have to know some code already to just kind of understand what it's talking about. But the first one that I'm using is this 1 of 4, right? You're going to copy from the source array, which is the first argument, to the destination array, which is the second argument, and then the length is required. The length, how much you're copying from one to the other. Do note the destination array has to have enough space in it to accommodate what you're copying. So how did I do that? I created values with the size of the length of the array, so they're the same size. See how numbers.length, we don't even know what it is. I think it's 6, right? So I'm creating an array of size 6 here. So this one is big enough, just big enough to copy everything inside of this. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to copy from the beginning to the end, the entirety every time. There are other possibilities. I'm not going to go into them. I'll let you read up on them in the book. I'm trying to make these a little bit more, again, more succinct, these videos. So you can see how you have different variations, the first index to the destinations index, that sort of thing. So, but I want to do the most basic kind, which is this one. In this case, I'm going to, instead of having these two things point to the same array object, this is going to be empty at first. And then the very next step that I do is I use the array class and its static copy method to copy the contents of these numbers right here, into this array right here that I just created that's big enough to hold it. And of course I have to specify how many things I'm copying from numbers to values. How many am I copying? All of them, the whole length, 6 things. Then the very next step I do is I change the value that's at the element, value sub 2. I change it to negative number that sticks out. Then I iterate over the values, and really all this is for numbers.length is the same as values.length in this particular instance. So I could have used either one of them. So I'm going to iterate over 6 things, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to the list box that I've got on my form number sub I with a colon in between it and what's in value sub I. So what you should see, what you expect to see, is everything's the same in values and numbers, except for the one we changed in values. If it worked the way it did before, you'll have negative 6,666 for both numbers and values. But if it really is a copy and now values has a life of its own because of this statement, then they'll have different values. So let's run it, test it, see. I already know what it says because I've run it before. So here's the form. If I click the do array demo, it's going to do this. It's going to call this. I should call this do array stuff because it would fix that. It would match that. So I click and it fills up using this loop, this list box. And you'll notice this is number sub 0, this is value sub 0, number sub 1, value sub 1, number sub 2, value sub 2, which is what we changed. So it's what we expected, right? And then the rest are the same. So this is how you make a copy of an array instead of just having two array variables pointing to the same array. That's what we've accomplished here. I think that's enough for this one.